The NFL draft is nearly here. I feel like I have finally submerged all the way down into those lukewarm NFL draft waters. Seth Keysor's going to warm those waters up with what I believe is a genuine hot take that the man himself believes that is going to shake some of our voyeurs to their core. I have some hot takes. I have some medium takes. I've even got a lava hot spicy one. This is what we're going to do, baby. It's the last edition of Only Weird Games before the NFL draft, and we've got takes. Oh. We've got takes. We have no Nates today for very good reasons that I'll just say keep an eye on the Nate Taylor socials to keep an eye on what he's up to today. But I said what I said. This is our last edition of this show before the draft.
Yes.
Of course, KCSN is going to be live throughout the draft. And they'll be taking over Thursday night. Friday and Saturday, I'll be with them, but Thursday you can have them instead of us.
So you're going to be there Friday and Saturday. So
Yes, sir.
That is some of my favorite content in the world. Whether it's, I mean, obviously your guys is ours, I should say, is the very best. But like watching like good friend of KCSN, Ryan Tracy, like on like the end, nearing the end of day 3, and you're in round 7 and the Chiefs pick is 20 picks away. And you're just trying to make it out alive, and you're wondering why you ever entered the content creation industry in the first place. That separates the wheat from the chaff. That's like if there were some kind of like Cypress Hill remake, like, so you want to be a draft content guy, like something like that.
Yes.
That is the moment where it's like, oh, you really think you want this? You really want this? And I'm so excited to watch you drive Kent crazy in those moments. I could not be more excited for that. That's going to be so great.
I don't want to give anything away. And listen, the plans that I have at this point are calling them half-baked is generous, but I have some loose ideas. And I've had one pre-show meeting about this because on a week or so ago, Renee and I were at Costco and we were in the food court. I was enjoying a chicken bake. She was having a hot dog and somebody ran their cart into our table. And just boom, like, well, that's kind of weird. I looked at the cart and I looked up and it was Kent Swanson, the Kirkland King. Guys, it's real. What you see on screen is real. We had no idea we were going to be at Costco. We passed not like 2 ships in the night, like a ship in an iceberg, as Kent crashes into us, and that's when the ideas began to simmer. So I'm going to say this. I will be pretty disappointed if there has not been a generous financial incentive for me to have a mustache on Tuesday's show a week from today. That's the thing that's happened in the past, for some of the great causes in memory of Therese Paylor that KCSN has picked up over the years, the KCSN Foundation, lots of things that I think we're going to do some good for. And I am going to try to bring the weirdness that particularly Saturday really needs. I'm just going on Friday so I can hang out on Friday night.
So, and you'll be there in person?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Huh. I have ideas. I have thoughts.
Do you?
I do. Oh man.
Hey, Weston's closer to you than Kansas City. You want to get to Weston on Saturday and tase me? I will be there.
It was so much fun, even though like Cole and I got stuck in a snowstorm day of recording live, or not recording live, like streaming like in person live together was some of the most fun I've ever had. And there's 2 things there there's multiple things. One, it would be so great to see you, KCSN subscribers, voyeurs, listeners, etc. It also is so great to see everyone. Every time I get a chance to see everyone, it's just so nice. Obviously, seeing you is wonderful. Tasing you would be incredible. But I really think there's a chance that Kent might start throwing things at you if it's just you. If I'm there, like I
think there's a chance. Well, here's the thing that I've got in mind now is that I need to either get Kent or Matt on my side, and then it becomes 2v1 and we're good. I know I've got Tucker. I know Tucker and I are pulling the same strings. We're on the same wavelength. We got a little finger our way around there, behind the scenes, climbing the ladder that chaos is.
Absolutely. I think your best chance is having Matt delight in bugging Kent.
That is exactly my goal.
It's like, hey, how are you and me do this? I think that is absolutely the way to do it. But yeah, I really look forward to watching that, man. And I look forward to the draft. It snuck up on me this year.
Yeah.
Normally, most years I end up with at least 7 or 8 Know Your Draft Crush articles. I'm going to be at 4 today or this year. Although I will say the last one's going to be a twofer. I know we're going to talk about that shortly. Because I just felt so bad. I was like, I got to write about at least 2 people. And then I was going to well, maybe 3. And then common sense caught up to me. It snuck up. It feels like it's here early. I'm in the phase now where I'm excited to see what happens rather than so tired of hearing the same draft takes over and over and over. And then the same faux outrage that the draft community, and I love many people within the draft community. Many people in the draft community are good friends of mine.
I have draft community friends. I do. Yes.
But there's this tendency to, if someone has the wrong take on a prospect, everyone just wants to quote tweet and dunk and just, well, that's just so stupid. It's God forbid they question whether or not the son of Deion Sanders has too big an ego. There's no way it couldn't possibly be the truth. Could it? There's no way teams are I'm not sure. It's how dare they feel that way? It's okay. Well, they just do. Everyone calm down. And maybe he'll be great. I don't know. But that's one of my favorite things is at this point, people are so entrenched in their beliefs that it's a borderline religious thing at this point. You walk in there and just and I'm not saying this is my opinion, but if you were just be I don't know if Walter Nolan's that good, you will just, and people just freak out. It's so much fun. Sometimes I wonder if I actually just love bugging people.
You do, yes.
Yeah, I have, even though I'm kind of one of the elder statesmen of KCSN, maybe the elder statesman now that I think about it, with Craig gone.
He's still with us. He's just not with us.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, thank you for the. No, he's still with us. He's not with us all the time anymore.
Are you older than BJ?
I'm older than BJ. Yeah.
I mean, at some point, you stop counting, I guess. But I didn't know that you and BJ were both at that threshold.
Yeah. No, I did turn 40 a little while back. Yeah. No, it's rough.
I gotta say, Seth, you can look forward to this. That bit is gonna lose juice from me over time. So you just know the worst of it was me being 25 and you being 35. Yeah. I think was probably the most vociferous, and then it's just gonna decline from there.
Yeah, you hitting 30 helps me.
I think it does. Yeah, I still feel more than a decade younger than you, but I also don't have any kids, so that part will do it for sure.
But despite being the elder statesman, I have youngest sibling syndrome. In that very few things delight me more than bugging people. And we have in the Keysor family, the core Keysor family, I guess you'd say, myself, my parents,
the core 9,
the core 9. We were always kind of a family that was pretty confrontational. Yeah. And kind of if someone was just crabby, there's some families oh, they're a little crabby, give them space. In my family, it's more are you a little crabby?
Some families they're a little crabby, give them a little space. Your family they're a little crabby, dip them in butter.
Yeah, now is the time. Yes. It's what would be really funny if we really, really made it worse.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be funny? And I think this might be a flaw of mine. I did that once. My mom said to me, because she saw how I was with my wife, because I like to tease Jazz. You've been around us. I can't help myself. I mean, I can, but I choose not to.
Right.
And my mom goes, Seth, just remember, she is your wife, not your sister. And I was for one, Mom, ew. For two, dang, man, maybe. And of course, Jazz was yeah, I'm not your sister. I was also, honey, stop it. But apparently that's my thing is I tease people when they're not in the mood to be teased. but I'm okay. And yes, Nikki I am older than BJ. I'm old. I'm so old. I'm sorry that I'm losing hair in the back of my head. I don't know what's going on anymore. I wake up in a bit of a fog. It's just. Yes, thank you, Rachel. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays kind of thing. That's me. But anyway, I can't wait to watch you and Kent. I really can't. I may call in or something.
Oh, that'd be great.
Just to really twist the knife if I feel like you're starting to bug him. I can't help myself. I want to help myself. I'm a Roman 7 annoyer. I hate the thing that I do, and I don't do the thing that I wish I would do.
Also, there was the comment that Tucker just flashed up by that I hope, I pray, truly, good comment from No Chicken tonight. Frog hunting with Tucker and Weston is a bucket list item. I hope I have the luxury, because Tucker was lining up that frog in the creek last year, and I hope to follow in those footsteps. Can I give you a legit? I never tell you. You should go listen to this national NFL podcast to get you ready for the draft, because we're in the ecosphere so much, and it's like Tucker and Verderam cover some of the national topics right here at KCSN. So I have a few podcasts that I listen to regularly. In fact, later I'm gonna mention one that I love that I think had a whiff for the Chiefs this week, but just a remarkable bit of podcasting from the Ringer NFL Draft Show. Their 2025 NFL Draft Take Purge is a delight from start to finish. Okay. From Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders to musicians being ugly again. It is I don't want to spoil anything else. I've already said too much. Danny Heifetz, Danny Kelly, Craig Horlbeck. I listened to that yesterday, and it honestly, it felt like it cleansed me of a lot of the exhausted national takes and just let me bathe in some hot fire opinions that they kind of believed and kind of didn't. It's just
that kind of beliefs to argue about, because you don't really care enough to get genuinely mad, but you care just enough to shove your flagpole right in the ground and not move. My God, I'm dying on this hill, and even if I lose, I don't care.
And I think I left that show with stronger opinions than they presented, because I was just listening to it, going, you know what, I do think that the Browns should be trying to trade out of 2. Like it's a very fun listen, and they did a great job of letting this feel fun while also knowing what they're talking about in a way that I hope we're able to provide. And on that note, Seth, I'm going to set this up in the way that I hope you will answer it if our texts about this topic over the last couple of days have been an accurate lead-in.
Yes.
Seth Keysor,
we were SMS text messaging. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because one of us screwed up all of the text threads to everybody else. I'm not going to name any names, but it's not me, and it's not Nate, and it's not Tucker.
I'm going to buy an Android even harder.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, and I'm sure that will improve your life. Once again, just a guy being an irritant for no reason. Seth, you are the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Cool.
The 31st pick is on the clock right now. You're holding it.
Okay.
Some guys you've taken a longer look at are available. This board's been crazy. 7 quarterbacks went in the first round ahead of you. This is an incredible dream scenario.
Yes.
Walter Nolan is on the board, a player we talked about, really liked. Derek Harmon on the board, a player we talked about, really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Simmons, potential offensive tackle solution if that knee is okay. He's on the board. We're going to talk about him a little bit more later. And a guy who's been falling, who honestly seems the most likely to be available at 31 based off of how things have been going recently. Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden is on the board, and you have the card at number 31 overall. Who are you selecting?
I have watched a lot more tape of Simmons since you and I were texting.
Okay.
Here's what I would say. Unless the Chiefs medical staff is like, man, we looked at that leg and that's a great leg. It's the best leg. Many know this. I'm not going to go full impression there. They looked at it and they're like, remember all the reports about Adrian Peterson's ACL, how it was like, it's like a baby's ACL, which I never knew what that meant. Like, that sounds bad, honestly.
It doesn't seem like an improvement over adult Adrian Peterson's ACL.
Yeah, that seems worse, demonstrably. So let's say they can't be too sure. think I take Burden. And here's the deal. People are going to get upset. They're going to say, but we need a defensive tackle. No, I understand we do, but it's a really deep defensive tackle. It is. You can grab Williams in the second round. There are guys that you can grab in the second round. Here's what I'll tell people, and let's go on a story here. My son just walked by. We've got French doors here, no big deal. He just walked by in his full Taekwondo outfit with his black belt, and I was like, "Good Lord, there's a man outside my door." That's just my almost 17-year-old.
How's his kick step?
Yeah. So
how long are his arms? Not long enough.
Yeah. No, he would just actually kick. Seriously, he kicked me and it hurt. Anyway, which is the point, I suppose. Yeah. So here's the thing. We'll go on a journey here. But prior to the season, I tweeted out because I don't follow college football. I had seen people reference Burden a few times because, he goes to Missouri, et cetera. I was like, hey, draft people. Just out of curiosity, is there any possibility the Chiefs have a shot at Luther Burden? And universally, not just from fans of Mizzou or haters of Mizzou, but I mean, I've been in this industry long enough that I've got friends who cover the draft for a living. I've got friends who cover the NFL for a living. Not one person thought there was a snowball's chance in Hades the Chiefs would have a shot at Burden. Now, fast forward one not super productive season later, and the exact same guy with the exact same traits might just fall into their lap, and people are like, I don't know. It's hard to say. You hear that he gets real upset when he doesn't get the ball, like every other wide receiver who ever lived.
Not just that, Seth, because you made an excellent point in the Chief in the North newsletter. People can go read this review right now if they'd like. Read along with us or read it after the show. mnchiefsfan.substack.com. Mm-hmm. You got frustrated watching his film because he wasn't getting the ball, because you knew that guy's the best player on the field, and that guy behind him over there, lined up behind the center, is having a hard time getting him the football. That's frustrating.
It's incredibly frustrating, and I know
Travis Kelce chest bumped Andy Reid in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it happens. People get upset. These guys hate losing. Give me a guy, if he's willing to practice, and people are also like, he'll be a locker room problem. He shares a locker room with 3-time Super Bowl winning Patrick Mahomes and with Andy Reid. This is not it's just what is he gonna try to alpha dog Patrick Mahomes? Okay. That's career suicide.
You can back down Travis Kelce, I bet.
They traded peak Tyreek Hill because they thought maybe that partnership had run its course. I mean, you're not going to be in a situation where Patrick Mahomes is going to have trouble. So here's the thing with Burden. All the reasons people thought there was no way. The comparisons before the season people were making was like a slightly less explosive Jamar Chase. Now, that might be a little hyperbolic because Jamar Chase is kind of a one of one. Yeah. But Burden has an unbelievable skill set that he weaponizes well. In the first game I watched with Burden, his first snap, he ran what looked like it was going to be a go. I imagine it was kind of a sight adjustment type thing where you go or you back shoulder. And he got a little separation. Quarterback went back shoulder and made a tremendous twisting catch. And then they never threw that route to him again the rest of the game. That was frustrating and annoying. They kind of used him basically like a college version of last year's Deebo Samuel. They just aren't really. I got to interrupt to say, Martine, happy birthday. Always a faithful commenter and watcher. And so happy birthday to you. I hope it's a wonderful one. Burden has people, he's a slot receiver. No, he's not. He's 6 foot, 200 plus pounds. He's very physical. He's got enough long speed. He's got enough quickness. He's got the ability to get off the line. They just never really asked him to do a lot of these things. And I just see the ability for him to line up all over. He's got a combination of speed, explosion, quickness. Those are 3 different things, right? You get some guys with speed, but they don't have quickness. You get some guys with speed and quickness, but not explosion. These are different things, but he's also got strength. He's got unbelievable ball skills. You want to talk about one of the differentiating things from, Rice has some good ball skills you see at times, but that's not his game.
It's not this. Watch the clip. You're going to see it. If you're going, does he really? Just watch him.
Yeah.
Watch him catch the football.
He also, like, you can't tell me that guy doesn't want it because he took some hospital ball shots and came down with the ball, sometimes delivering a bigger hit than he took. He has a really terrific set of traits. And here's the thing. People are going to say, well, wide receiver is not as much of a need. Drafting for need is a sucker's bet. All right. You draft talent. And also, Hollywood Brown on a 1-year deal. Didn't really light the world on fire last year down the stretch in the playoffs. We'll see how they use him this year. I think he's a good player. I think he's a great fit. I think he'll play well. He played well before that.
Regardless. Best case scenario, he's on a 1-year deal.
Yep. Best case scenario, he prices himself out. Rashee Rice is coming off a more serious than your common ACL tear injury. He's also staring down the barrel of a suspension. And he was playing so well before he got hurt that it's easy to forget this. He's still a bit of a projection. We're not sure exactly what he'll be. Xavier Worthy, really good rookie year, developed well down the stretch, but it's still a projection. And you don't have a clear-cut wide receiver 1 for sure in that group. Now, I'm not saying Burden is that, but you know what? If you think you've got 3 wide receiver 2s, you know what's better than that? That's 4 wide receiver 2s. So here's a question. I see this a lot. Tad Schroeder asks, did he catch anything more than catch 2-yard passes at Mizzou? Yes, absolutely. Turn on the film. It's all in the Chief of the North newsletter. And here's the thing. You can't catch a ball that didn't get thrown your way. If they say, hey, you got to run a bunch of 5 to 10-yard routes, I mean, I guess he could have said – when he was targeted deep, he showed the skill set. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not going to blame the player. That to me is like, well, I don't know if Xavier Worthy is much of a deep threat. I mean, the Chiefs barely used him as one last year. Okay. Well,
it's a great comp, honestly. And so we do that all the time. Like, this is a little bit of a different combination of things, but everyone's like, Josh Simmons, his knee is very scary. He's a lineman. This is apples and oranges. I'm acknowledging that at the front of it. I don't want Josh Simmons because of the knee, and I'm kind of with you. Rashee Rice is going to be back like week 4, guys. He's going to be back. He's a number 1 wide receiver. It's like, well, wait a second. Like the uncertainty that follows all of this.
Yes.
I think we all do it. I do it. Seth does it. Almost everyone in the comments does it. We all do this at times. It is way easier to soften the blow of the guy that you already like, or to sharpen the edge of the guy who's not on the team right now. Seth, I don't know your answer to this question. I don't know. You are the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs. Once again, you're there at 31. Luther Burden's there. You can draft Luther Burden and instantly trade Rashee Rice for the 32nd overall pick. I don't know if that works. Or you can stand pat, draft somebody else, move on. Burden's never on this team. If I am saying the Kansas City Chiefs can have Luther Burden or Rashee Rice for the next 4 years, who would you rather have right now?
I'm a bird in the hand guy.
So you're a bird in the hand guy. Luther Burden it is.
No, I'm more of a
bird in the hand.
I've seen what Rashee Rice can do at the pro level. And so I always go that route. And so
I'm inclined to agree with you, but I think the knee matters there. I think
the knee matters a ton. And so to answer questions people have, to answer some questions people have about like, oh, well, he's a slot receiver. I mean, he played a lot of slot in college, but that doesn't mean he's not capable of doing more. And that's where you have to watch traits. Does he have the explosion and the strength to get off the line? Absolutely. Does he have the speed to stretch the field? Absolutely. Does he have the ability to run through contact? Yes. So he shows all the traits that an outside receiver has. And here's the other thing that's worth noting. You can line guys up all sorts of ways. We've got to stop with this idea that you can only run line receivers up right on the boundary or right, or right in the slot. The Chiefs use trips and stacks more than basically any other team. So you got basically 2 guys running out of the slot. It is his skill set. Because remember, with college players, you're looking for traits. Sure, he played out of the slot quite a bit. So did Justin Jefferson at LSU. That doesn't mean that's all they're capable of. You got to look for those traits. And here's the other thing. Like if someone were to tell me, oh, no, it's just a Rashee Rice clone. Okay. if you had the opportunity to draft Rashee Rice in the first round, would you say, no, we already have a Rashee Rice? No, because really, really good receivers, and this is where you got to keep something in mind. People act like there's some limitation. Like this, a guy like Rashee Rice or a guy with Burden's film, you don't have just this incredibly limited way of utilizing them. You do have multiple ways of utilizing them. It's not like he runs like a 4.8 40 and he can't threaten down the field at all. That's not what his film shows at all. And here's the thing with wide receivers. They are force multipliers. The more you have, the better off you are. The more legitimately good wide receivers are on the field, the more you limit what defenses can do. And the fewer you have, the more options you provide a defense. We talk about Travis Kelce's gravity all the time. Well, what if next year you had 4 wide receivers with gravity? Doesn't that sound fun? I want the Chiefs to start putting up 30 a game again. And I think there's 2 paths to that. If the left tackle position is fixed like they think maybe it is, okay, fair enough. I think they might just put up 30 regardless with what they've got. But also, being able to throw the ball all over the yard and tell teams you absolutely cannot play man coverage against us because your third corner isn't nearly as good as Brown or Rice or Burden or Worthy. Not even close. You cannot play man coverage against us, and that forces zone looks, and there's just all sorts that goes into that. So I like it because wide receiver, you almost always have 3 of them on the field. It's like, well, we have 3 receivers. Okay. Got a lot of question marks with some of them.
Yes.
You can have 4 on the field. And that's the great thing. It's not like left guard, where when you have a left guard, you have a left guard. Unless you trade him.
I'm glad that you kind of hit the dismount on a short-term upside. I'm going to play a long-term case for Luther Burden, and then we'll move on and talk about some other guys. Short-term, Hollywood Brown's on a 1-year deal. Travis Kelce's probably done after this season. Mm-hmm. Juju Smith-Schuster is back on another 1-year deal. I don't think people are going to like this, but I also don't think people have thought about this. Rashee Rice is a Kansas City Chief next season and the season after that.
Yep.
2 years. Hollywood, Kelce, 1 year. Rashee Rice, 2 years on this deal because he's entering year 3. You'd have a 5th-year option for Burden, obviously, but it's a 4-year, 5-year deal. And we have seen this isn't going to end up in like a Sky Moore backhanded thing here. Now, we have seen 2 examples of a rookie wide receiver succeeding in the Chiefs offense. Neither of them were doing it until week 10, realistically, right? Like we saw their roles pick up in major ways in the back half of the season. Maybe Burden can take some of the early Rashee Rice role if he's slow back from injury, if he is suspended. It'd be an interesting test. I would guess right now, Seth, that Juju Smith-Schuster would outsnap Luther Burden through the first 6 weeks of the season, pretty confidently, I think. But this is a small redundancy in 2025, which you have explained, not a bad redundancy, but a small one that can be used to your advantage. Mm-hmm. After that, it's not that much of a redundancy. I'm not saying they're planning on moving on from Rashee Rice, but I don't know. A guy with a serious knee injury, a serious offseason incident, and then 2 years to build off of that. Next offseason, they need to be having that conversation with Rashee Rice. So
right.
It's all, I just think it's a lot more fluid than people are kind of thinking about it being. And I can't shake the feeling that people got bored watching Luther Burden run around some incompletions last year. And that just totally tanked what was a top 10 type of pick before that.
Yes. And that's where you look for traits, and yeah, production matters, but you got to ask the why and you got to ask the how. And this is a good comment from Jeremy Cochran in the comments. If Simmons' knee is okay, he ain't making it to 31. And if he does, that tells you all you need to know. I do think it's a little more complicated than that because some teams, like Trey Smith, made it to the 6th round. And has he missed a game? Like,
I think he might have had one little fluky thing, but yeah, I mean, and that was no blood clot misses.
Right. And that was obviously, it's a little bit apples and oranges because it's very different type of medical conditions.
And the Chiefs didn't take him in the 5th round either.
Yes. Yeah. And so there's a certain amount of risk that's involved, especially with a higher pick. Yep. But I would argue that there's a little more known versus unknown in terms of recovering from a leg injury. Like they can look at the scans, they can look at the MRIs, They can look at the, they can really
we have
look at
precedent for this injury healing.
Right. And to be fair, to be fair, the precedent isn't amazing.
No.
Especially with a big guy like him. But that's where I'm sure he's, worked out a little for teams. And honestly, I think if he's worked out for teams and they like how he's moving and they like his medicals, I've watched his tape now, and I know we're going to talk about this in a couple topics. But if there's a team that thinks his medicals are fine, he's going top 15 easily.
I feel like we could have saved so much oxygen with that a month ago. And I feel like that's kind of what we've been spinning around. It's like he's either it is unlikely to believe for me that the Chiefs would be the one team that sees him as an elite potential left tackle and has clear medicals on him. And that's just a miracle that he's there at 31. We will talk about him more on two fronts, actually, because I have a little addition for later on as well. But I want to know what you've seen from Josh Simmons, what you've seen from Kenneth Grant. But first, I want to talk about something I don't think is going to happen. We'll do that after the break.
With the 31st pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select.
Let's go!
Xavier Worthy coming to the Chiefs in round 1 makes the absolute most sense one could imagine.
As soon as I saw the body type and the way he moves, I'm like, I've seen this too often. Like, I'm just moving away from it. That's why I'd prefer the guys like Xavier Worthy, because they're going to be open.
How can this team navigate the board to walk away with great value at wide receiver and at tackle?
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Are you ready to win some real cash during the basketball playoffs? Well, check out Pick 6 from DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings Pick 6 posterizes the competition, and yeah, that includes Prize Picks. Hit all of your picks and score higher minimum payouts on Pick 6, plus even more cash if you outscore the competition. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. New players get 50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to play $5. Get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offers. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Tucker's really making a meal out of it over here on the visual side. I will always do my best to represent the audio voyeurs. That's how this show began. I have great love for the audio medium, but you can't appreciate the sauce that Tucker is putting on those moments right there unless you're seeing how he's doing it. Really special work.
That was
he
incredible.
He stands for director, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just glad I get to be a part of it. I'm associated with it, and I feel like a better man for it.
I'm going to talk about something that did not make me feel like a better man today. It made me feel like a slightly worse man today. It's not nearly that dramatic. But I want to talk about the Chiefs drafting a guard at 31 and why, if they do it, I will tase myself in the face until unconscious. That's not legally binding. I owed one taser still. I admit to that one. That one I just said is not legally binding. But I'll just say where I tweeted it out and put it on Blue Sky and everything of like, without kind of attaching where this came from. But I think the source kind of matters because I was disappointed listening to the Athletic Football Show, which I very rarely am. Robert Mays does an incredible job. He's had rotating guests come through and do different things throughout the draft process. Great show, does really great work. But they got to the Chiefs pick at 31. I can't even remember who else was there. There were a couple interesting picks, but they got to the point where they said, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but it was very, very close to, well, imagine Tyler Booker with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. And I couldn't help but think, guard Tyler Booker.
Yeah.
I could not help but think, God, I mean, that sounds pretty good. Imagine Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith with Joe Thuney. Like, because the conversation leading up to that was about the Chiefs' offensive line protecting Patrick Mahomes. That's been the thing that's gotten in their way year after year after year. Last year, they traded up in the second round for a left tackle. It didn't work. They gave up after 2 games. Now that guy's your starting left guard, who you are now. Your first round pick would be knocking last year's second round pick out of the mix. I'm not like losing sleep over Hunter Norzad, but I think he's there for actual depth to be a guy who can make sure that you're eventually setting a floor at that guard position. Maybe that doesn't count for next year. Maybe that's years to come. If you're telling me that Kingsley is plan A, and maybe Hunter Norzad is plan B, and maybe Wanye Morris is plan C, and maybe Mike Caliendo, they started at guard in the playoffs by choice. I hit my desk so hard my microphone started shaking. They started Mike Caliendo in the playoffs by choice. They didn't have great choices, but it was a choice. He's still on the roster. Not exactly the guy I want to see out there week 1 either, but he is on the roster. I don't see it at guard at all. We could get to Simmons, and maybe if you're in one of those places where you're saying, oh, I think I see the ceiling for Simmons, you're drafting for the ceiling, that's fine. If you're drafting a guard at 31, you better have a roster with very few glaring holes, which I don't think is true for the Chiefs. I think they have several glaring holes, not ones that are going to sink the whole ship, but glaring.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to have, I think, an absolute lack of interior offensive linemen that you feel anything for. And they're already selling us on the Kingsley rehab. So I've seen it a lot. I've seen the Chiefs going with tackles other than Simmons in mock drafts here and there. I'm a little bit over the Simmons thing, but we'll get to that in a second. I don't get the logic on the guard thing at all. I understand replacing Joe Thuney with a younger, cost-controlled player, but the Chiefs are telling you right now, I think, that it better be Kingsley.
If they draft a guard, that would be very, very upsetting. They've drafted multiple interior guys last year, and including apparently Kingsley Suamataia.
Right, yeah. Apparently they drafted 3 guards last year.
Yeah, and so that would be a really, really bizarre thing to do, even if you thought he was like an all-pro level type player. The only reason you would do something like that would be if nobody you like is there and you can't trade back. Then, okay, fine. You go best player available, I guess.
And maybe you let Trey Smith walk and it's Joe Thuney for 1 more year and you're drafting Tyler Booker, I get. I at least see the succession plan. They have they're about to pay Trey Smith a lot of money, I think. And they had better be hoping that Kingsley can play guard.
Right. And that's where, I mean, yeah. And I think Kingsley, again, that's, after the draft, after the film reviews, Kingsley Suamataia's snaps at guard will probably be the first thing I look at. It's a pretty small sample size in a really weird game. But it would just be really, really odd. It would be a really odd decision. I think that more, and like you said, the Athletic Football Show, they generally do a really good job.
Great stuff at a national level. Maybe this is one of the things that I like to remind people why I think that like this matters, like KCSN matters, and this show matters. That like I heard Brett Veach talk about Kingsley Suamataia, and I don't know that Robert did. I don't think he should have, frankly.
Well, and that's where it really is one of those things where it's like, oh, they traded Thuney, and so like it just goes to show, how quickly all of this can happen. That would shock me. That would bother me. It would also, I mean, at the end of the day, you can't let sunk cost gauge how you make decisions.
Totally.
But to me, you draft a guard if you think Caliendo, Norzad, and Suamataia and Hansen all stink.
Yep.
Like, I mean, stink. then okay. And then that's a bummer. And then it's like, well, if they all stink, what makes you think?
Yeah, if they all stink, somebody else should pick, actually. You shouldn't pick another guard. Somebody else should.
So, so I understand you can't let sunk cost dictate decisions, but that would be a very, very weird way to go about things in a process that was already, to me, just a tad weird, unless they really think Kingsley Suamataia has what it takes to be a good guard. Like, if they think Kingsley is a good guard, or at least an average guard, right? Because you can make do with that very, very easily. If they didn't think that, the route they've gone was a weird one with Tooney.
Correct. Yes,
and so I'm right there with you on that. A couple of commenters are saying they'd rather see a running back than a guard.
I almost said that out loud with my own mouth, Seth. I almost said I'd rather have Hampton than Booker. Yeah.
I could see that. Like, I could see an argument for that.
Here, let me, you know what? No, I'm going to save. I've got a running back thing that I'll save for later. I may need to adjust the spiciness levels of my takes. Because we've mentioned Josh Simmons a number of times. It's not, the film review is not out, but it will be shortly, tomorrow, probably, right? Chief of the North newsletter. But you gave me the first update on what you know about Josh Simmons just a few minutes ago. We're going to go both sides of the trenches, but we don't think guard makes sense. Sounds like you do think Josh Simmons might make sense. What have you seen so far?
It is 2024 film. I've looked through the limited games available. He was so good. He was that dude stayed healthy. He's first tackle off the board, probably drafted top 5. He's got, like, I know people are spooked because he measured with 33-inch arms, but then it was like 33 and a half at a later measurement. But here's the thing. It's not just arm length. It's also size. It's upper body power. It's frame. And he's got a bigger frame. So he wasn't getting long armed or bull rushed into oblivion. He like almost never lost. Like, I mean, almost never. It didn't matter the situation. His lateral movement and his jump at the snap is so good. And he couples that with really good upper body power, which means that, I mean, like, if he takes like more of a horizontal set, right, where he's jumping right onto the edge, he gets there so fast, and he's got the torque to twist guys. He's really, really, really good. His tape was good enough. The only reason you're ever going to get that guy is if other teams can't quite convince themselves, even if they like the medicals. And that's one thing people are like, well, if the medicals are good, he'll for sure be gone at 31. Don't underestimate how hard GMs are trying to not get fired when they make decisions.
That's a good point.
These are just people, and they are not people with perfect job security. And you're already taking a guy who probably won't play in 2025. And so it's just a lot. There's a lot. So you need a GM who doesn't need an immediate contributor. And so that rules out a lot of contenders, right? Also rules out a lot of really bad teams, because you can't take a guy who's not going to play in 2025 with a top 10 pick. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
It rules out. So it rules out the worst teams, rules out a few contenders.
It puts, like, it's why, like, the Texans kind of felt like a hard line of, like, if he's there, the Texans should take him. I don't know, man. Maybe the Texans aren't in the mood to wait and watch CJ Stroud get killed for another year, and they're not comfortable saying we'll see Simmons in 26.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, everyone says, yeah, with the Texans, like, well, the Texans need help now. Yeah. They're more likely to take one of these other guys that maybe projects to, maybe be a guard, maybe be a tackle, and take a chance on them. Like, and so it's a really narrow set, and Kansas City kind of fits into that set. Right? You've got a GM with a ton of job security. You've got a desperate need in 2025. I like Jalen Moore's film. I think he could be a solid left tackle. He's also a guy like Simmons who's played right tackle.
Yep.
And guess who's not with the Chiefs in all likelihood in 2026? Their right tackle. So they're a team. You got a GM with job security. You got a team that doesn't have this desperate need for him to play immediately. You've got a team that really trusts its medical staff. There's a whole lot of other things that at play. I think, honestly, with Simmons, I think you've got, even if people are overall okay with his medical, I think you've only got a half dozen teams that are even a threat to take him. I really believe that. So, but his tape was so good that it actually put me on the, oh man, if they really liked what that MRI showed, and they had multiple doctors say that, and he moved around a little bit. Like, I would be willing to wait a year for that because the Chiefs are never getting a guy with that kind of college tape as long as Patrick Mahomes is their quarterback.
It's I understand why he has become such a fascinating topic of conversation. All of that is like I think that's the best case for why he will be there for the Chiefs and could be taken by the Chiefs there. I also like it in total agreement with what you just laid out. I also am kind of in a space where it's like, well, but I would like the Chiefs' first round pick to have an impact as a rookie. Like, and I would like to believe that they've got their tackle plan, figure out. They can figure out right tackle later. Maybe they like Wanya Morris in 2026. I don't know. I'll kick that can down the road. The pitch on Josh Simmons is as good as you could make any pitch at 31.
Right.
But there is also it's why, again, like the Trey Smith thing is just not a good enough comp. Because I mean, we're talking about him at 31, so this is probably pretty evident. But like if Josh Simmons was there in the third round, everybody'd be like, yeah, him. We'll find out. Like, but that's kind of what happened to Lucas Niang. Lucas Niang in the third round off a hip injury, right? That he was never, the college was the hip, and then it was knee stuff after. Do I have that right?
Yes.
I think his hip was through TCU. I think that's
because it was a knee stuff, then a hip stuff. He just struggled with injuries.
And coming out of college, third round pick, I think we were on the same page. Hey, you know what? That's a good flyer.
Yeah.
Because you saw, if I'm remembering correctly, I think even you going back and looking at his film after the draft, I think junior year, guessing he left after being a senior, but whatever, the year prior, he looked like a really good player with more upside that would make him worth a flyer in the third. It's an expensive flyer, but as opposed to what we saw from him thereafter, doing that at 31 is expensive. It's scary, but it's also extremely different than doing it at 12. What did Veach say last week? That they had 12 to 14 first round grades. So if you're telling me, hey, there are 12 to 14 first round players, and then there's Josh Simmons, the first rounders are all gone. Do you want Josh Simmons? I would understand. And I guess I'd be slightly excited because that would come with the endorsement of the Chiefs medical staff instantaneously, right?
Right.
But it's also kind of spooky, and it would be really, really weird to like officially draft a player with the red shirt as opposed to not a shot, as opposed to it effectively being that for like FAU in his rookie season, right? This is a different bag. But also, spent the last pick of the first round on FAU, a player that wasn't just raw, and maybe we'll figure it out over a few years. And now it's been a couple of years, and they're like, hey, is this player anything? I'd rather have the left tackle that would have gone top 5 if he was healthy. I don't know. You can hear the conflict. There's no situation in the draft that I'm more conflicted on than the Chiefs are on the clock. Josh Simmons is there at 31. I don't even know what I would want to happen there.
Yeah, the first thing I would want to know is, okay, is the first year a total redshirt year, or are they hoping he can be healthy come what date? Right. Like, what's the idea there? And so, I mean, it's interesting, but I honestly think with Simmons and Burden, because of unique and differing circumstances, they might have a shot at top 15 talent that they would almost never get any other time. Yeah. And that's a good place to be. And you got to take some chances when you are drafting where the Chiefs draft. Like last year, they took a chance on Xavier Worthy with size concerns. And with FAU, it was more like, well, there's ceiling concerns there, and we'll see how that goes. So it can go both ways, but that's how life is at the back end of the draft, because you're still using a first rounder. But the guys, again, if Simmons were healthy, we wouldn't even be talking about him. It'd be like the Carter, the pass rusher. But like the conversation to me would be similar. Let's say if Carter, a guy with his exact tape, had a pretty bad injury, I would be saying the same things, because positional scarcity matters, and you're not going to get a left tackle with that kind of tape. You're just not going to.
Do we have that conversation with the Michigan end? Was it a Jabo that came in off of like a serious knee injury right before the draft and was kind of in a similar space? Like there are always players like that. Obviously, there's a huge range of what the injuries are, the positions, all of that vary, but absolutely fascinating. No surprise that he's going to be one of the most interesting things that we'll talk about wherever he ends up. I'm guessing we'll say Josh Simmons' name on this show a week from today. What about the other guy that's going to be in this draft crush that's coming out tomorrow, Seth? You've gone back to the defensive trenches too. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan, not the likely top 5, top 8 Michigan D lineman, but the other guy who appears to be, let me check my notes here, a big load of beef.
Yeah. Kenneth Grant is a massive human who does not move like a massive human. Some of the comparisons people have made, one is BJ Raji. Just a dude who weighs...
that's the KCSN draft guide comp, and I adore it. I am instantly in.
BJ Raji could really play. Similar stuff to the analysis when I was talking about Derek Harmon. If you can get a guy who can 2-gap, can eat blockers, doesn't move against double teams, and provides pass rush juice, those guys are tough to find. You usually got to pick, right? You're going to be a little weaker against the run, or you're not going to be able to rush the passer very well. You either got Derek Nottie or Tershawn Wharton, okay? You've got guys, and Wharton developed a lot as a player, still couldn't handle double teams or combo blocks. Whereas a dude like Kenneth Grant, and some of it is projection because while he was productive, he wasn't dominant in college. But it wasn't like he's just this, like, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. That used to be the expression. It wasn't that either. He was a really good player. And I also think I'm only through a couple games. I like Graham, the guy that everyone thinks is going to be the first defensive tackle off the board. Mm-hmm. Part of me wonders how productive he would have been. I still think it would have been really productive.
I was going to ask you the inverse.
Yeah. Would he have been as productive without Grant? Because Grant got attention. He got plenty of it. The one thing with me that's interesting with him, though, like on the downside, is that with Grant, it's interesting when you watch him. I don't see him having as obviously violent functional strength as Nolan or Harmon. Which is interesting because they're both like 25 pounds smaller than him. Yeah. But, part of that's just kind of how it is a little bit. Those are both very gifted players that I just mentioned. So far I like what I'm seeing. I'm not like sold out completely on him yet because it's not quite as consistent as I'd like, but I got to make it through another couple games. But it's the planet theory. There are not a lot of dudes that are built like him that can move like him. And it's not just, he doesn't play soft. He plays with a really high motor. He runs down a lot of plays from behind, which is kind of a funny thing to see a guy his size do it. I just need you to be aware, Josh, that I'm literally not going to stop talking for at least 3 minutes because I'm very, very petty and a commenter told me to talk less. So
what did I do?
There once was a ship that went to sea, and the name of the
you said it's like the planet theory because he's roughly the shape and size of a small planet.
He is roughly the shape and size of a small planet. You just don't get a lot of guys that can move like him. The potential is certainly there. It's just interesting to see him play not consistently with upper body power. You'd expect to see more of that. So I like him. I think I might be tentatively on board at 31, but I'm not 100% in yet. Josh, did I ever tell you about how I met my wife?
You certainly have, actually,
many years ago.
Yeah,
Jazz and I were. No, I'm
curious. Listen, I want that. I don't have those the public comments open right now. There's a lot going on. I just want them to know. I don't want Seth to talk less. There's only the two of us right now. I have said I feel like I've talked a lot today because there's only the two of us.
Yeah.
And we're going to go over an hour because it's just what we do.
That is
no one has ever asked us to do it, but it's just going to, I have notes that I've not read yet. We're going to go over an hour, but
yeah,
I don't feel like we can both talk less. I think that would lead to a lot more.
Well, no, what I personally like to do is I like to log on to podcasts and then complain that podcasters are talking.
Talking?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, have you ever noticed that when you get on a road, all these people are driving cars? Oh, just the worst. The other day, I went to work and all these lawyers were like talking about their cases and this judge was being super judgmental. It was just all.
Let's take a break.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
We didn't need to do that. I hope that one was an okay one to click, Tucker. I feel like we can always plug the app, right? So, Seth, let's get into some of our final calls here. Let's get a couple of final things on the record, and sure. I don't know if you want to make a prediction. I have brought, as I've said, I've brought a mild, medium, hot, and a fire take that I think going into this draft, again, directly inspired by the take purge that the Ringer NFL Draft Show did. We're not quite there yet, but I've got ascending levels of spice, Chiefs related draft takes. Does anything jump to mind for you before I get to my pre-prepared ones here, Seth?
I guess a semi-hot take I have is that all the Simmons noise around the Chiefs is a complete feint, and they're like, we don't trust the medicals enough, but we want one more of our 12 first-round guys to fall to us. That's a semi-hot take that I have. Maybe hotter take is I do think there's a strong chance they take someone like Burden if he falls to them at 31.
I'm gonna have to go first because there's too much overlap. I'm realizing now, like your hot take, like, well, that's pretty close to that one, and that's kind of
okay. You go.
Here's what I am bringing. I have gone to my local Taco Bell. I have come back with 4 different sauce packets, and I want to know if you'd like to have one of these sauce packets on your taco or chalupa or grilled stuffed burrito or whatever your.
I would love for you to put your sauce on my grilled stuffed burrito, Josh.
Let's get saucy. The mild take. There will be a running back selected by the Kansas City Chiefs at pick 133 or earlier.
I am dousing my chalupa and devouring that sauce. And you know what? It's very flavorful and not even slightly spicy to my northern Minnesota palate.
I don't think it's that spicy, but I wanted to make sure I had one mild pack of sauce in case I didn't end up with enough others. I was doing
if you're eating with a Minnesotan, you need to have one of those.
You got to, just as a break in there somewhere, you know? My dear friend Sterling Holmes and I were doing simultaneous mock drafts earlier over on Arrowhead Addict, and we both got to 133 without having taken a running back. And Isaiah Bond was on my board, and it felt too funny not to do. And I don't remember what Sterling did, but he went a different direction as well. The thing that we've mentioned this, I know, but like the Chiefs have 31, 63, 66, 95, 133, 226, 251, 257.
Whoa, that's a big jump.
There is going to be a lot of time on Saturday where I'm annoying Kent because the Chiefs do not pick currently. They don't pick in the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah. When is the Chiefs pick now? Like, I mean, it's just going to be,
Kent, are we there yet? It's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
What I think, and I almost said that they'll pick a running back in the top 100. That would have been spicier. I don't know that I see the necessity for it with this draft class and what I have learned and this whole idea of different running backs of different flavors. But after 133, you are not happy at 226. Yeah. At 133, there will be, I think, probably multiple running backs you're happy with, and you could have your pick of that tier at 95.
Yep,
that's how I ended up there. I'm not interested in having that. It's just a mild take, just a little mild. Let me give you a little spice, Seth.
Ooh,
a little spice that I think it's going to fit right just fine on your stuffed burrito. The Kansas City Chiefs will not take an offensive lineman with any of their first 3 picks. 31, 63, 66. No lineman in any of those 3 picks. Scalding, Seth?
It's pretty. Feeling a little bit of heat here.
Yeah. Warming up.
You know, I can still taste the flavor. But that's pretty hot. That's pretty hot. I think, you know, when you think about the Jawan Taylor situation, although they really do like Wanya Morris at right tackle, I can see it. Okay, you know what? I just took all I needed was a little drink of milk.
And a little Baja Blast.
Yeah. Yep. Just a little milk. Didn't need to grab the ice cream. We're okay. You know what? It's edible. It's edible. Definitely added some spice.
We just got some nachos. Hot sauce on top of them. What does this hot sauce taste like? What's that? The Kansas City Chiefs are going to draft a wide receiver before running back this year? Whoa! That's a little hot. Oh, you know what? I got a little sweat on my brow.
I think you are absolutely correct, and I think they would be wrong to not do that. For all the reasons we talked about, potentially Burden at 31, they should draft, you know what? I'll see your hot sauce. I actually just pulled something I brought from home out of my back pocket, and I'm going to douse a little bit on top. The Chiefs should draft a wide receiver in the top 3 rounds every single year.
Delicious. I don't like that you have that sauce in your back pocket. Seems like a logistical issue to have sauce in your back pocket, but
well, that's just a euphemism.
You like to live dangerously. And you know, Seth, we've been warming up together. We've got a little sweat going here, but
like I'm on hot ones and this is about to get bad.
Yeah, we're respecting our palate. I didn't bring a Diablo. I just got the fire here. Here's the fire hot spicy take. If the Kansas City Chiefs do not nail this draft, they will spend the next 3 years becoming ordinary. Cracking these knuckles. Here we go. I do not think they are in danger of immediately being yanked away from the hierarchy of perpetual champions of the AFC West, perpetual playoff teams. And Patrick Mahomes will not become ordinary. But Travis Kelce will go. The offense will rely on Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and then more patchwork because they didn't nail a receiver in this scenario in this year's draft. Mm-hmm. You're seeing a more limited offense as Andy Reid still coaching over these next 3 years. I'm not also foretelling a Andy Reid retirement in this time span necessarily, but I think the places where the offense has become a bit stale in recent years with no infusion of talent, with no protection for Patrick Mahomes. Again, we're hoping Jalen Moore is a good enough solution to make it where they don't have to spend one of those picks at tackle this year. I think the canaries that have not quite returned from the coal mine are like enough to look at and to notice. Plus, Trent McDuffie's got to get paid. They just paid Nick Bolton. They're about to pay Trey Smith. There are no paid safeties on this roster right now. There are no paid corners outside of Christian Fulton. Again, I think they're going to get McDuffie done. George Karlaftis is going to get a lot of money from somebody. Charles Omenihu and Mike Dana are going into their final years of their deals, or at least function. I can't remember where Dana's actually ends. FAU is in the last year of talking me into it. If they whiff on this draft, they are going to operate, and I think largely achieve, like an ordinary franchise, where Patrick Mahomes will still, I think, win Super Bowls, plural. But it's going to look a lot more like the difficulties of last season when you saw the talent get hurt and drop, and you saw the scheme fail to elevate it on a frequent enough level. It is my lava hot fire Diablo spicy take, but that's my fire take.
I was unable to speak throughout most of it, as you could see. I had to go get some French vanilla ice cream to really get that down. Yeah. Here's what I would say. That's spicy. I don't know that it's wrong. We have never had non-God tier Travis Kelce post the 2021-2022 draft. So I'm combining things there, right? Mm-hmm. The 2021-2022 drafts were, especially the 2022 draft, they were cornerstones. And Travis Kelce is a cornerstone. And also Chris Jones, who was just as dominant as ever last year. You just never know when that starts to happen. I think you're pretty correct in that this year is the last year for multiple guys in the 2022 draft. You know, Jalen Watson's going to get a decent contract somewhere. Trent McDuffie's, I think the Chiefs will get that done. Karlaftis, they'll get the 5th-year option, but you're running out of time. I think there is a lot of truth in that. They would have to. Now, it's not a necessity, and I hate doing the whole caveat thing, because the caveat to that would be if they hit on both Jalen Moore and Suamata Ia at guard. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh well, that's if a few of those things hit, right? If
Xavier Worthy is Deshaun Jackson next year, Rashee Rice comes back healthy.
Yeah, if they need, but you know what? That's actually operating similar to a normal.
That's kind of where I'm at, right?
It's
a lot of the ifs. If these lucky breaks happen, there was a comment that maybe a couple, like what defines a whiff or not nailing it? I don't know. We're playing a little Calvin ball here. But that's the thing for me when you see the guys who have been value cornerstones for this team, that has not been replaced. Like Felix Anudike-Uzomah doesn't need to take George Karlaftis's roster spot as a starter, but it would have been cool if he would have had a little redundancy in your, and maybe he still does, in your young defensive end development pipeline and that cycle, right? Like they're off right now. Last year, Xavier Worthy, I think, is a really good football player. I think Jaden Hicks is excellent. I have no more strong opinions about that draft class in a positive.
Right. And that's just the thing. Both of them were solid, but will they take the next step? So, like, let me give you the example of, say, Brian Cook. Okay. Brian Cook was good as a rookie, got hurt. And he's been a perfectly solid player since then. But we tend to view these things in a trajectory, right? Well, you were solid as a rookie. That means you'll be good as a second-year player. You'll be really good as a third-year player and great as a player. That's not how that always works. No. Maybe Xavier Worthy and Jaden Hicks will be fine players, solid players even, but not great players. We don't know. That's what I meant by it being a projection, right? I do think there's something to that. The other side of it is they let L'Jarius Sneed walk, picked up this extra third rounder. They've got a little extra. It's a really good third rounder.
Yes.
An extra like top of the draft third rounder is a really good piece of draft capital. Now, it's not like what they got in the Tyreek Hill trade. That was kind of a one-off thing, but they also haven't traded away a bunch of other stuff. So they've got a fair amount more draft capital this year than they did the previous 2 years. So this is if you nail this draft, and what does nailing the draft look like? Like, to me, it's like not necessarily even just giving a star or 2 stars. If you get 2 good players and 2 solid players, that's acing a draft. If you get 1 good player and 4 solid players, that's acing a draft. I think you need something close to acing this draft if they don't want things to be much harder on themselves, because rounding out the roster is about to get a whole lot tougher. It's still doable, but it's much harder.
That's why I use the word ordinary in terms of how I believe they would have to operate. Last thing on this, and you can keep this in your mind as we all get very, very excited about players in a couple of days. The last 2 draft classes, I'm going to keep track of what I believe to be like you are confident that this is a very good, this is a very good NFL player who you're happy to have on your team and you've got in your plans going forward. Not just a stopper, but a player you're happy to have around. Xavier Worthy, I'm not giving it to Kingsley. He's played 1 game of guard. I'm not giving it to him yet. Xavier Worthy, Jaden Hicks, Rashee Rice. End of list. That's 2 drafts, 3 players. That is leaving out Kingsley, who may be your starting left guard. That's leaving out Jared Wiley, who we both like, coming off an injury now. Some more linemen. Kamal Haddon not on the team. FAU could end up being a rotational pass rusher. Shamari Connor, useful player. Wanya Morris has been a useful player at times. Could be a useful player going forward. But a lot of those guys are guys that we talk about a lot. Therefore, I think we fall in love with them a little bit. Oh, man, Shamari Connor. Well, last year, we saw how they used Shamari Connor, and it wasn't great.
I think you're making – these are all accurate points. And that is where they had an excellent, so if you look at like the 2020 draft, Willie Gay Jr., L'Jarius Sneed, Mike Dana, you ended up with 1 guy that played at a superstar level. Clyde did help, contribute to an extent, but that was their weakest draft of 2020, 2021, 2022. 2021, obviously you had the offensive line overhaul. And Nick Bolton coming in, Noah Gray coming in. The 2022 draft speaks for itself. It would take too long to say all the contributors there. That's the thing. You need genuine contributors, not guys that are there and they're okay, but they've got some weak spots. And that's where they've just been a little light on that the last few years. Doesn't mean they haven't gotten any good players. They haven't failed any drafts. The last genuinely bad draft the Chiefs had was back in
2018, right?
2018, yeah. And since then, they've had decent drafts at least.
I'll tell you what, this isn't, Brett Veach doesn't need me to do this for him. Their worst draft was in 2018 when they didn't have a first-round pick. They had spent that to go get Patrick Mahomes. So,
Yeah, and so that works.
Breland speaks with doesn't hurt as bad if you have a first-rounder who's okay.
You definitely want to add some more ceiling and floor to your team in this draft, because the last 2 drafts have been a little light on numbers, even though you've gotten some good players out of it. Coming out with 3 or 4 good players in 2 drafts, and that's the problem. Like, you can't say like Xavier Worthy looks like he could be a good player.
Mm-hmm.
He's dangerous. Like, there's a lot there, but like Xavier Worthy, I could easily, and this isn't trying to be a bummer about everything. I really like Xavier Worthy, but if you were like to take him last year, I would be able to easily name 20 receivers better than him in the league.
Yeah.
And at that point, can you call someone a really good player?
Yeah, interesting.
You're projecting, right? Whereas Rashee Rice, I think after his rookie year and through the first couple games of last season, it's like, no, I can't name 20 receivers better than him. And that's a completely arbitrary line that I made up, by the way. And with receiver, that number's bigger than other positions.
Right. And you can have a bunch of them on the field. Your top 75 receivers are all getting paid like real money and getting real workloads across the league.
Right. So I think that is a very spicy take, but I also think there's a lot of accuracy in it. This is
a warning sign. It's some capsaicin entering the draft weekend of like, this just would be a bad time for another foul ball.
I've got a shorter way of framing it. This is the most important draft since the 2022 draft.
Yeah, mine. But you definitely made it like medium hot there by framing it that way. So
by a wide margin.
Yeah, maybe hot, maybe. I don't. But that's not that. You mean so? What we're stepping over is like some drafts they absolutely crushed, and then like a couple of recent kind of stinkers. I get it. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
They're gonna become ordinary. They are going to have to live like every other NFL team. Patrick Mahomes, nice, I guess. Is he the only guy on your roster? It's the hurt.
You don't want that.
No,
and that's,
yep. You want,
yeah. If they can fill out the roster or add top end talent to the roster, you got to win one of those 2 ways this draft, or things are going to get real hard. You add a star or 2. It doesn't really matter because you can fill out the roster around stars.
Right.
Or if you add like 5 solid players, okay, we can work with that because now we've got 5 solid positions that we don't need to pay.
Right.
That's why like a guy like Willie Gay Jr.
You have to pay Mike Dana to make him keep being Mike Dana for your football team after you drafted him. Drafting Mike Dana was like an A+.
Yes.
Free agent contract for Mike Dana was like a C flat.
Yeah. And that's where like seeing whether or not guys like Worthy and Hicks, who Mike G in the comments, Josh did say Jaden Hicks right away, like almost immediately, honestly.
What did I?
Oh, no, Mike just keeps saying that we're not mentioning Jaden Hicks. And
I said Jaden Hicks' name 5 times.
Yeah, he was perfect. He was solid last year, but it's still a projection, right? It's not like he came in and had like a Kyle Hamilton rookie season. You're still projecting some stuff. I think he's going to be a really good pro. And so this time next year, we might be talking about the 2023 draft or the 2024 draft completely differently, because let's say Jaden Hicks has morphed into a top 10 safety. You're like, oh, that suddenly makes that draft look a lot better.
I love Jaden Hicks. He played 330 defensive snaps in the regular season.
Right. And 30%. I really like him. Love his
potential.
Like him.
The Chiefs really like him because Justin Reed's not here anymore.
Yeah. And so you need they're good enough on the back end of the draft with undrafted free agents, with low-level free agent signings, and that sort of thing, that they are able to fill out the roster to an extent if you get a few more stars. Don't worry about it, Mike. I just wanted you to know. You don't like the idea of being too top heavy, but if you're top heavy enough, they can get it done. But you want one of 2 things to happen in this draft class. You grab a couple of guys who are, like I said, not just good players, but really good players, or you get 4 guys, 5 guys that are legitimate contributors. If you do one of those, they continue to be more than ordinary. And ordinary doesn't mean that they couldn't be great.
2 questions and we're out of here. Okay. Quick answers. Do they pick at 31? What position group do they draft?
They pick at, you know what? They pick at 31 and they draft defensive tackle. No. I lied. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. They pick at 20, a little higher than 31, and it's a defensive tackle.
My original mild take draft was they're moving up because it felt like the most mild take that you could possibly have. I don't know, man. I'm gonna get really afraid for Harmon going like 28, and they might, and they probably should. And if they moved up a little bit, I just the part where that becomes a little bit of a problem, they're swapping picks. It'll probably be okay. They don't have any more of the throw in a pick picks. They have good picks and sevenths. And so like we'll give you this. I'm afraid that it would cost 133 to move up very far. I'm hoping it would be, hey, we'll give you 133 and you're going to give us 175 or whatever. Right. And we'll move however much. But I really think defensive tackle makes sense, which is why I say my own answer to my own question, defensive tackle moving up. I'm right there with you. That is not betting advice. It would make a lot of sense. I think the board could be there. I think Harmon could be there. I think it all clicks into place.
Yeah,
and I would not bet a nickel of my real money on it though.
Yeah, it's pretty unpredictable.
All right, we've done it. I think we are both going to have our Luther Burden jerseys in by Thursday. Again, the lab guys and KCSN all across the board will be live. We played the promo earlier. I believe it's 6:30 on Thursday that the draft coverage officially begins right here on the same places you're watching this video right now, the KCSN YouTube and socials. It's going to be a heck of a time, and nobody's better equipped to do it for Chiefs fans, quite like the guys that are going to be doing it. And then I will join on Friday and Saturday, less qualified, but incredibly qualified to bother Kent Swanson. Seth, I'll let you send us into the draft.
The important thing to remember, guys, as we prepare for the draft, a lot of the points Josh made, this really is one of the most important drafts of the Brett Veach era because we are reaching the end of the Patrick Mahomes era because we're reaching the end of the Travis Kelce era. The roster is going to need to pivot. You want to keep the defense operating at a high level. There's so many things that are really, really important, but none of them are more important than remembering that if you tell me what to do, I'm going to do the complete opposite every single time.
So could you wrap this up, please? Just go ahead and wrap this for us.
I'll see you in Hades, Brisco.
I expect it.